Happy Thanksgiving! It's Week 13, and this is the NFL's Fantasy Football LB Waiver Wire IDP streamers. And we're cutting straight to the high-volume and high-upside linebackers you'll want to claim if you need an upgrade or replacement this holiday weekend.
So let's get started with the biggest opportunity play of the week, linebacker Cody Simon of the Arizona Cardinals. And take note, this is an immediate must-add situation. Since taking over as the starter in Week 10, he's been the only full-time linebacker on the Cardinals' defense. This fourth-round rookie was officially handed the green dot when Mack Wilson Sr. went on IR with a rib injury. That means Simon is locked into a massive opportunity, giving us a true LB1 ceiling. And he's been incredibly productive. He had a huge 12-tackle performance in Week 11, and he followed that up with another solid 7 total tackles and a tackle for loss in Week 12 against the Jaguars. And in total, Simon has tallied 25 tackles, 1 for a loss, a forced fumble, and 1 pass defended as a 3-game starter. But for now, how long can it last? The fact is, Simon is an LB1 option until Wilson gets back, which isn't until mid-December. So this might be about the last shot at Simon as a solid streamer this season. But don't lock that down 100% just yet. The Cardinals aren't winning, and they could always leave Wilson on IR, or who knows, maybe just let Simon have his shot at the job for next year instead and simply shut Wilson down. And the best part? In Week 13, Simon and the Cardinals face the Buccaneers, who've been very generous to inside linebackers the entire season, ranking top 10 in most tackle-heavy formats, and we've even seen them as high as top 5. So if you are not in the market for a possible LB1 one-hit wonder, you might want to check out our next 2 guys first. But as far as trusting this matchup, we are giving Simon a strong vote of confidence this holiday weekend.
Our second target is a veteran linebacker who was suddenly making noise for a playoff contender, Germaine Pratt of the Indianapolis Colts. Pratt is a known IDP commodity. This on-and-off-again linebacker has history, can be trusted, and has clearly found his groove again in Indianapolis. The Colts signed him after Week 5, needing a veteran presence. While he was mired in obscurity earlier this season, you'd have been hard-pressed to find him with a box score worth anything. The change in scenery provided a personal motivator to perform, and he delivered just when the Colts needed to build momentum in Week 12 against the Chiefs. He turned in an explosive performance, racking up a massive 20 total tackles, 15 solo, 2 tackles for loss, and 1 pass defended, and certainly had a LB1 footprint since landing in Indy. But it gets way better. The best part is the schedule. Pratt and the Colts face the Houston Texans in Week 13, a highly favorable matchup for linebackers, ranked top 12 overall in both tackle-heavy and sack-based formats. This sets him up for immediate streaming success. And if you need a safe long-term floor to battle injuries, Pratt has a really solid schedule for linebackers pretty much through the fantasy playoffs. He is a must-add for immediate production if you're looking for long-term security. So it's making it pretty darn hard to decide between Pratt or our next guy.
And we ended this week with the most notable LB1 opportunity on the board, San Francisco's linebacker D. Winters. It's no secret, the 49ers defense was kind of forced into a youth movement early on this season when Nick Bosa went down. But on the brighter side, they did find one of its biggest surprises in D. Winters. Reportedly thrust into more of a primary role due to injuries when Fred Warner went down, Winters has responded with high energy, significant growth, and sharpening instincts, and has established himself as a reliable piece in San Francisco's playbook this year. So how can a season-long LB2 light it up this week? His primary role might be to help stop running backs from penetrating the middle of the defense. However, he also plays a pivotal role in limiting the escalation of large plays that make it out of the box. And surprisingly enough, he's ended up playing around 95% of the defensive snaps per game since Week 1, which is also pretty hard to come by this late in the season. And of course, this consistent usage has translated directly to a solid tackle floor. He's currently averaging 7 tackles per game and has added a total of 6 tackles for a loss on the season. It's also worth noting that Winters isn't highly graded in coverage, and this could come into play because offensive coordinators and quarterbacks definitely won't go out of their way to avoid him, which consequently helps give him continuous action in or just outside the tackle box.
And if the Browns feel lucky enough, they should try to pass his way, considering he just allowed 10 for 10 completions thrown at him versus the Cardinals as recently as Week 11. And to tweak that up, he's allowed 48 of 62 attempts altogether in 2023. And looking ahead, Winters still has to make it through Week 12 against the Panthers on Monday Night Football. However, that matchup also offers a good example of what we might see in Week 13. The Panthers also rank pretty high in allowing IDP production to linebackers, and something to think about if he's available before the game kicks off tonight. But the real Week 13 boost is the matchup against the Cleveland Browns. The 49ers travel to Cleveland to face a team that since Week 8 has been in the top 10 in allowing production to linebackers in most IDP leagues, and in some fantasy formats has remained in the top 5 all season. So it's pretty simple. On paper, this is an elite setup worth the plug and play if you are looking for one. And if you are hunting for a solid higher-end LB2 with a massive LB1 tackle ceiling, D. Winters is a must-start streamer this week.
And we are cutting straight to the best available defensive backs on the board. So, happy Thanksgiving, and let's get started with a DB whose opportunity just exploded in the AFC South.
Leading us to our first focus, safety Jalen Reed of the Houston Texans. He is one of the most immediate, high-ceiling additions on the DB waiver wire this weekend. The timing for this window for Reed, who missed the start of the season with a knee injury, is wide open. And due to the season-ending injury to MJ Stewart and Jimmy Ward's continued absence on the PUP list, the Texans have pushed the 6th-round pick from Penn State into a full-time role next to Kalen Bullock. And he took advantage immediately in Week 12 against the Bills, delivering a stellar performance in a highly ranked safety matchup. Reed led both teams with an explosive 12 total tackles with 9 solo and secured a huge turnover, recovering a fumble late in the third quarter. And his game day play instantly earned him high praise. Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans specifically called him out in his post-game conference, saying Jalen Reed, first time he saw a lot of action, and I thought his first game playing a lot, he stepped up and played big for us. And despite not officially getting the start, Reed logged a massive 55 defensive snaps, accounting for 77% of the defensive playing time, confirming his status as a potential every-down player going forward. And his value continues immediately in Week 13. The Texans face their division rivals, the Colts, who are a dream matchup, ranking top 10 overall all season long and allowing production to opposing safeties. And this definitely helps make Reed a must-add for a high-potential DB1 performance this week.
Our next target is safety Josh Metellus of the Minnesota Vikings, who has a history of grading poorly, but is also known for producing monster tackle totals. Metellus recorded a season-high 12 tackles in Sunday's loss to the Packers, marking his second consecutive game with double-digit stops. And despite failing to play 100% of the snaps for the first time since Week 3, the production did not slow down. Now we have to address the injury blurbs on this one. Metellus suffered a knee injury, returned, and later took a shot to the left shoulder. The good news? He battled through the hits, finished the game, and logged about 85% of the defensive snaps, which is very encouraging. The Vikings face the Seahawks, who are a top 10 team in tackle-based formats, and the struggling Vikings offense just hit a massive snag. Coach Kevin O'Connell confirmed quarterback J.J. McCarthy is in concussion protocol. So if McCarthy can't play, undrafted rookie Max Brosmer will get the start. And this situation, against a formidable Seattle defense, strongly suggests a negative game script on paper, which could lead to even more snaps and tackle opportunities for Metellus. The pivot plan. If Metellus is ruled out, 2 names are worth noting. Veteran Harrison Smith is the other trustworthy starter who would see an immediate boost. But for a deeper and a bit riskier Hail Mary, look at Theo Jackson. He already showed his upside, recording 7 tackles and a tackle for loss versus the Packers in Week 8 when his playing time was bumped to a season-high 66%, while Metellus was in and out. Seattle certainly offers a great matchup and is still ranked in the top 10 in allowing production to the safeties. So if you're looking for any DB upside you can find this weekend, check out the Viking safeties, but start with Metellus first.
And our final defensive back is a former draft favorite who's now realizing his high ceiling in a full-time role. Antonio Johnson of the Jacksonville Jaguars is the last guy thriving after seizing a starting position.
The former Texas A&M defensive back is now consistently getting better and earning more opportunities as a starting safety. Over the past month of the season, Johnson has been ranking as a DB1 and averaging solid fantasy points per game, and continues to deliver for fantasy managers who have snagged him off the wire. And his PFF grade is a solid 75, supporting that it's not just volume-based production. His production is undeniable. In his last 4 starts alone, Johnson has amassed 20 total tackles, 2 sacks, and an interception, proving he is capable of supporting both tackle and sack-based formats. And this certainly includes big-time playmaking, such as logging a sack and 6 tackles against the Texans, and then versus the Chargers, he had a clutch 44-yard interception return to set up a touchdown. And this higher-end production streak makes Johnson a solid but deeper DB2 option with a touch of upside, at least this week, against their divisional rivals, the Titans. But the Week 14 matchup against another divisional rival, the Colts, and that's a whole other story. They sit atop the rankings in allowing production to the safeties. So lock him and load him up if you're needing a streamer this week, with even better upside in Week 14.
Let's skip the fluff and cut straight to the slightly deeper Week 13 defensive lineman and see who stands out as a great target. And our first 2025 defensive lineman, Tier 2 talent with Tier 1 upside, is DeMarcus Lawrence of the Seattle Seahawks, who faces one of the very best edge rusher matchups this weekend against the Minnesota Vikings. He leads the Seahawks' 3-man rotation of edge setters, and while his sack totals aren't as high as they were in his younger days, his pressure rate remains elite. He has been a consistent force with 30 tackles, 4 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, and an outstanding 31 quarterback pressures this season, indicating his ability to generate constant quarterback pressure gives him a fantastic DL floor. And this Week 13 matchup is hot. The Vikings' offensive line struggles to protect their quarterback, ranking near the bottom in pressures allowed. Even better, the Vikings are currently the top 3 in allowing production off the edge in fantasy football. And now, with J.J. McCarthy in concussion protocol, if he can't go, they are likely to start undrafted rookie Max Brosmer. And this combination of a struggling offensive line and a rookie QB who will most likely struggle some in his first start is a sack magnet dream scenario for Lawrence. So we can expect the Seahawks defense to be able to pretty much handle the game, giving him multiple opportunities for sacks and tackles for loss on top of a couple of tackles. And we think he is a strong, must-start DL veteran with a strong chance for a massive DL1 week. So Lawrence is a great veteran DL2 target with upside if you're looking for a deep waiver wire streamer.
Our next defensive lineman to target is Khalil Mack of the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are coming off their bye, rested and ready to face the Las Vegas Raiders, which puts Mack in a prime position for an explosive performance. Mack has been a fantastic pass rusher throughout his career, boasting a consistent track record of high disruption. And despite missing time earlier this year with an elbow injury, Mack came back in Week 7 and has since put up 3 sacks, 12 solo tackles, 3 for a loss, and 2 forced fumbles over the last 5 games. This phenomenal production streak demonstrates he is fully healthy and ready to dominate. And this Week 13 matchup is a dream for the Chargers defensive unit, which is ranked as a consensus top 10 defense this week. The Raiders' offense is a full-blown disaster. Their offensive line ranks near the bottom of the league, and their offense is among the worst in both turnover rate and sack rate allowed. And they just fired their offensive coordinator, compounding the chaos. So in the end, Mack has proven he still possesses the higher-end pressure rate needed to exploit this failing offense, making him a strong DL2 start who can easily post double-digit points and give you that Tier 1 upside.
And our final and deepest DL2 option with Tier 1 upside is Gregory Rousseau of the Buffalo Bills. While his box score of only 3 sacks through 11 games is underwhelming, his underlying play has been elite. PFF.com currently grades him at a strong 86. This elite grade isn't just hype, it's due to his immense impact as one of the league's best run defenders. Although he's only delivered 3 outstanding fantasy scoring games all year, he plays a healthy amount of snaps and has a history of recording sacks in bunches throughout his career. And his Week 5 output against the Patriots, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, and 5 solo tackles prove that DL1 upside is always present. Now for the matchup. The Bills are heading into a massive, must-win conference road game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers' offense is dealing with major quarterback uncertainty, and the numbers haven't been great. Aaron Rodgers has already been pressured 60 times this season, leading to 19 sacks in 10 games. Now, with Rodgers optimistic about playing despite a fractured wrist that will require a protective brace, the pressure is immense. If Rodgers is compromised, or if he ultimately sits, it will be Mason Rudolph again, who was just sacked twice last week against Chicago. And the Bears haven't exactly been a defense thriving on sack stats this season as a team. So I'm thinking Rousseau is perfectly positioned to exploit this high-stakes, likely low-yardage matchup and give you that huge sack and turnover performance. He is the ultimate deepest DL2 gut play of the week. And that wraps up our defensive lineman targets for Week 13. If you want to know who we're targeting, check out one of these videos, like and subscribe, and we'll be back before you know it with more NFL fantasy football IDP advice as soon as we can.
They doubted us every step of the way, but we knew what we were capable of.